Welcome to We Care Conversations. It's a video podcast produced by the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board of Allen, Auglaize, and Hardin counties. I'm one of your hosts, Cody Ridenauer.
I'm your other host, Elisa Bradley. I'm looking forward to today's conversation. We have with us today Alfred Coach Powell. I know, right? But we know him as Coach, and so that's how we're going to refer to you in our conversation today. So thank you, Coach, for joining us on the couch.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, I look forward to all of your insight and just how you've impacted the thousands of students and adults, not just here in Lima, but in Ohio and even across the nation. So, Coach, I'm going to give you the opportunity to share some of your pieces of information that you have to share for your introduction. So jump right in there, and then we're just going to have a lighthearted conversation.
Well, first of all, I sincerely thank you for this invite, and I'm looking forward to it. I am the director of counseling and treating people of color, sponsored by Stony Brook University out of the Department of Social Welfare and Health Sciences. I'm also the immediate life coach advisor for Bermuda, a program called MIRRORS, which I attend 4 times a year and train people on the island on how to work with young people and mental health challenges, emotional issues, and family crisis. And other than that, I'm just a husband, married with 40 plus years with 4 beautiful children. I claim all the children when they act right.
And what about when they don't?
Oh, well, that's the other DNA.
That's somebody else's challenge. Okay.
So did you say Bermuda, like all of Bermuda?
Yes. It's only 21 miles, so, but yes. Been there with them for 15 years now. I've been in that position, yes.
So since I'm all about the ocean, let's just start with Bermuda, okay? Tell us about that work and how that work in Bermuda can be similar to our work here stateside and even in Ohio.
Yeah, one of the things you really learn quickly, and that I learned quickly, that people are people wherever you go. We have the same needs, the same challenges. Adults do the adult thing, as I say, life be lifing. They get confused about who child is this? I can't believe he or she said that or acting that way. And the challenges are just similar. And the cultures you have to get adjusted to because, of course, when we're talking mental health or emotional crisis, there's stigmas that come with that. And there's a very strong stigma in the British system, which, we don't have problems. We don't have gangs and things like that. So it took a year or so to carve through that and get people in the right space to accept the challenges. And so we've been there ever since.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So, okay, now that we've gotten the Caribbean out of the way, because that's my own wish and desire, but that's another podcast for another time. So bring some of those same concepts and ideas back stateside. Tell us about your exploits around the country, and then we're going to ultimately make our way to Ohio and to little bitty old Lima.
Well, I really don't know how to answer that other than wherever I go, I feel like I'm at home.
Okay.
And that's for my own mental health. You can't function very well out of fear. And I learned that as just being a athletic coach. And so I tried to walk with the confidence. I tried to prevent with the confidence for the client can absorb some of that. I believe a lot in the absorption theory. You will take on the environment sometimes and the energy that is presented to you. So since I like winning, I'm going to put out a winning attitude. I don't care how dire it is with my clients. And so, I try to be the positive so the battery can really do its job. The car can really turn over. We can make some movement. And the transitions coming from stateside or states to state or district to districts, it can set you back a little bit as a provider until you realize there's a winning side to this. If we just put the work in, right? Get people to the point where they care. I love that term, we care. Let's steal that. I mean, but
Okay, well, might have to write another check because we're owning that. But you're in the family now. You're in the family now.
that's a beautiful statement. And I try to carry that we care type attitude into the environments that I'm working in. And I don't know how this happened, but I get the cases that no one else wants to deal with. I'm the one where the senior therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists will say, "Hey, where's that coach guy?" You know, I'm sort of the ghostbuster in that business, and I didn't realize that until Dr. Simeo's Biscu told me, "I called you because you're the ghostbuster," and I'm like, "I am."
You are.
I don't know about that.
I can second that.
We have a decent success rate, but you got to meet people where they are. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's basically I walk into any situation with that. I'm willing to meet you where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting saying that people are people everywhere. And, then, you might have a few roadblocks or might slow things down at first, but in the end, like you said, you have that winning mindset. You're going to get through that. So what do you see kind of locally working in Lima? Some of the roadblocks maybe, or the unique things? And
Well, the roadblocks when I got to Lima, I just came to Lima to do a speaking engagement. That's all I come to do.
How many years ago was that?
It was about 7 years ago, right? And I was invited into a school, and I noticed they were doing a lot of prepping, for this audience that I was about to present. And because they said, well, these kids can't handle, an assembly and all those type of things. And I said, well, do you have a keyboard? And so they brought the keyboard, and next thing you know, it just took off from there. I won their trust, and we had fun doing that. And some of the roadblocks is sometimes the adults don't realize that they're putting up the roadblock because low expectations are easy to achieve. And when you reach a low expectation, you feel like you're winning. And so the adults sometimes don't believe that they're contributing to the issue. And so the denialism has been a roadblock. It was for me, maybe the first year and a half, just people in denial. And so, yeah, that was about it. But again, that happens a lot of places.
sure. But now you're seeing these kids can handle it. You just got to push them a little bit.
Oh, they're thriving. A lot of them are thriving. And I was just in one school. Now I'm in 6 schools in this area. And I'm seeing kids who are now in like juniors in high school, like, check, because that's sort of my call. It's the word check, And
Check.
yeah, and I turn around like, oh, now I'm horrible on names, and I'm like, I know that face, like Coach Powell, and the first thing they tell me, all their achievements. No one says, well, I failed in school, and I only come to school once a week, and I don't hear those stories, but that was the projection they were on when I met them, And so, yeah, we do a chant, I feel good about myself. I feel real good. And they remember those things. They're like, all right, that's cool. So, yeah.
Continue your talk about the power of positivity.
Oh, I'm the youngest of 13 children. And I always tell my audience, don't talk about my mama. She had one baby daddy. I have sisters who are triplets, and I have an identical twin brother. That's 5 right there. That's still a lot of children in the house, right? And I found that because our family was like a lot of families, we had secrets. And so, because I had my own mental health challenges and emotional challenges that I didn't realize until I got to adulthood that had been suppressed during all those things that we went through. But the positivity piece, I found out a smile, even when I was being disciplined. If I started just smiling at my mom or whatever, I didn't get as many licks, maybe, and I'm like, hey, it's something to this. And I was raised in a musical family. And when things were blue, I can remember being a child, maybe I was 8 or 9 years old when Dr. King was assassinated. And my parents were pianists. And so my mother was spiritual, very spiritual, and so she would play, and the neighbors, everybody just start gathering at the door, coming to the house, and it'd be a concert, and that was just positivity. And so I've tried to carry that inheritance. I say it's inheritance because I can be blue too, but it doesn't last long at all because I understand the power of positivity. And I've tried to express that to my clients and to my friends, and I try to run with light company as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not getting the result as much as the positivity. The blue side doesn't get as much.
No, you just get bluer and bluer, right? And I'm already black, so I don't want to be blue black. I love being black, but okay. All right, I'm gonna be serious.
No, it's good. You're accurate. Please do you and be you. And that's part of the reason why we invited you, because we wanted your energy and we wanted to know how do you go about involving parents in your work?
Wow. First of all, I remind them because a lot of parents like to tell me, I don't know why this is the case. I don't know who this kid is. Like this is part of you. Um, and getting parents involved, I love wordplay because I'm dyslexic.
I was hoping you'd go there.
Oh yeah, and I tell them as long as you're paying, I said put the word rent on your paper, and I said underline the word rent. As long as you're paying rent, you're in charge. And this is a lifelong contract, right? You got to pay the price. And some of that price that we pay as parents is heartbreak.
Yep.
So, and that's a real thing. It's not joy 24/7.
No.
It's not. But some of those heartbreaks give us strength. They give us the energy that we need, the lesson that is learned from those heartbreaks bring us joy. And when you lose your joy, I say JOY, jump over yourself. Enough for the pity party. You got to put the pieces back together again. So, yeah, that's what I do with my parents.
Okay.
And then they say, you can take my child if you want.
And you go, thanks, but no thanks.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes as a parent, it is hard to learn your own lessons through seeing your child's heartbreak, triumphs, and failures, and to think of it as an opportunity for both sides to learn something.
Well, and think about how many parents are actually still really growing up as they are parenting.
Yeah.
Some point. Yeah.
What do you feel about that?
And part of that, this really didn't come from our studies as being counselors, but parents live vicariously through their children.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're treating or you're providing services for a child, you're also indirectly providing services for the family as well, the parent, because that's where some of the issues come from, right? Without a doubt. I think it's difficult sometimes for parents when they look at their children's circumstances and they blame themselves for some of the choices they made in life, and then it's being duplicated through their child. And got to sort of separate that a little bit, and so parents are hurting for their child as well. And so it's not a good feeling. And even as counselors, we have to recognize it's not a good feeling. Right. And no one session brings that out and fixes that, So it takes time. And the parents live vicariously through their children. We do. We're guilty. We're guilty of that.
And I was with a group of other parents recently, and we all agreed that none of us know what the heck we're doing. And then you think about we thought our parents had it together. They didn't know what they were doing either. And so I think a lot of grace has to be given to parents and the children, especially because we're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And because it's work, but what type of work is it? It's hard work, right? It's difficult work, right? But most of all, it's guesswork. We're guessing at a lot of these things that we do. From the time they get up in the morning, do they wear blue today or do they wear green? You're guessing at everything, right? So it's like a parlay. You put it together, hope you hit, right? It's a lottery.
Well, and even along that same thought, I think about when my parents were parenting me, they weren't dealing with the things that I was dealing with when I was parenting my children or our children. And now my daughter, who is parenting, isn't dealing with the same things that I was dealing with. So we oftentimes in these conversations for this podcast, we come back and we have some kind of talk about social media. My parents did not have to deal with, me being on a phone or buying a tablet or buying that additional service of cellular data or whatever, however you want to go in that space. And they're not dealing with the same things that they experience. So it's almost a completely different and new game of parenting. It changes with each generation.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is a challenge, and it's going to continue to be a challenge as things evolve. Um, I can remember our biggest fights were playing a game of Twister, and you knocked me over, whatever, and that blows up to a big fight as a childhood. Now kids are coming to school because someone they didn't even see playing a game on social media defeated them, and now they want to bring that same anger out when they get in the same space. I'm like, wow, times have really changed. And so even in our business as counseling, our life coaches, however our titles are, we have to remember that it's not in a neat little box, right? And we have to make that adjustment as well.
And all of the varying pieces. I mean, just all of the repetitive and non-repetitive messages you do. The teachers will say, well, we practice this at home or at school and we do such and such, and then they go home and this and this and this is undone. And the parents are saying the same thing. Well, we practiced this at home and they knew how to do this, and then when they got to school, it's something completely. So all of the mixed messages that our students are receiving, I don't think as adults we always recognize how many mixed messages they get between parenting, between educational spaces, between what social media and television is telling them. It's a confusing time. And I've often said to parents that I've worked with, if the last time you were in a school is when you were in school, you should know it's not what you remember.
Right.
It's not what you remember.
And as long as your child is in school, you're in school.
Right.
There's no question about it. We have some parents who are from a generation now that thinks because they send them to us for 8 hours, don't call me. They're with you. I don't call you when they're with me. So don't call me. And I'm like, no, it's an integrated relationship.
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. Yes.
I'm even finding some younger teachers struggle with reaching out to us as parents, and I'm like, no, it's okay. You can let me know what's going on. Because I think everyone wants things to be separated. They want the phone barrier between them, and that's a lot easier than facing your problems.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And in a sense, speaking of the younger teachers now, because I used to do this exercise that I had, and I promise you, in the beginning, every teacher was over 30 years old, right? Now I'm going in, they're like, hey, coach, I'm like, I just had you in high school, right? You're just on my track team or whatever.
Or how about when you don't recognize the teachers from the students?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is something. But and it makes it difficult because, I'll be 70 years old in a couple of years, right? And so, yeah. And I'm thinking that teacher, Mrs. Goodwine, Miss Howard, Mr. Johnson, they were like a parent. Right? If they didn't attend the same church we attended, they knew your parents. They called them by their first name. There's a symbolic parent thing that's going on there. What your mother carried you in her womb for 9 months. You go to school for 9 months, right? Your parents when you were born, you got a birth certificate, right? When you come out of that school, you get a diploma. All there's so many connections there that calls for a parenting side of an educator. And so when I do PD trainings with teachers, some of them have a hard time relating to that because they say, well, my child wouldn't do that. Well, there's an old saying that says it takes a village to raise a child. And you should study that in order to understand that you do have a very important responsibility with this child that goes beyond English class, math class, social studies. It's a relationship, is my point in the exercise. And you have to embrace that relationship. When coaches take ownerships, when we're coaching baseball or whatever, we take ownerships of that athlete. That's my guy, I trained him this way, that way, and you're so proud. But when failure occurs, no one wants to take the ownership, right? It's a RPO, relationship, partnership, ownership. RPO, relationship, partnership, ownership. And it's also a great play in football, too, RPOs. We're talking about that some other time.
Yeah, well, no, we're going to talk about it now because since you started up and opened up the coaching space, can you share with us your coaching record and all of the great things with track and football and all of those spaces? For those of you not listening, Coach is very awesome at those spaces also.
I'm very fortunate, very fortunate. I coached football, American football. I learned to say, because people are like, "You talking about soccer?" No, American football and track and field. And I stumbled into it. I was an average athlete myself when I was in school, and so I carried that love on when I got into the school system. And very, very fortunate. So I started coaching in the early '80s, and we became very fortunate. Won a couple of state championships, and before my
So modest.
Yeah, I know.
yeah, I mean, but I never ran a lap. I never caught a touchdown pass. So it wasn't me, but I just realized that sometimes my student athletes didn't have the talent that the opponent had, but we had an attitude of positivity. Tell my guy, when you get a good tackle on that guy, help him up. But let him know that his guys are not blocking for him. Right? That creates tension on the other team, not in our huddle. But we use positivity to our advantage.
It is scary to see the other team get along so well, and be like, they have their stuff together. They might not have the talent, but they're communicating. They care about each other. That's intimidating.
Teach all linebackers to say if the other team gets 4 or 5 yards, a decent run against us, you make sure that they're in earshot of you saying, "Listen, guys, I told you they was going to run that play," right? They're like, "Oh, how did they know who was going to run that play?" Stuff like, and you didn't know, but we're playing psychology, right? Because we're not as physical, as talented as the other team.
To use your tool.
You have to use everything in the toolbox, right? And I found out this stuff is really working, right? And all you have to do is be close to win. So all you have to do is be close to me. Now, in track and field, it was totally different. My guys were just fast. They were fast, and they were running for a purpose, and they were finding out that's how their brothers and their cousins got scholarships because money was scarce. And so they were running to further themselves. That's ironic. They were running to further themselves, and they really did. And so that became the reputation. And so out of all those 38 years, we won 16 state championships. Yeah. So we're very fortunate, very fortunate.
So I ran track.
I participated in track too, Cody. I mean, if we just all gonna talk about our track accomplishments.
But one thing that I loved about track was how social it was, because there's a lot of downtime. But a lot of funny things always happen. So I just wondered if you had any funny stories that you can remember.
That can be shared on air.
We don't have enough time. We don't have enough. We would travel quite a bit, and so we ended up in a place in West Virginia, and they had these hills you have to walk to get to the stadium. And I'm telling the guys, go ahead, I'll catch up with you, stuff like that. Then I made the wrong turn. I come down there like the 3 or 4 races, and no one was looking for Coach. That's what I was guys, I was lost. No one was looking for me. Yes, in West Virginia.
It's a different show.
And so just a number of things. I mean, I'm so glad that I have assistant coaches as well as myself. When I was assistant, did the head count, because you realize somebody's still asleep back under the bleachers. Yeah, then how you guys get some shade, find out. You're like, wow, I would have left somebody's child in Pennsylvania, right? Or in Michigan, wherever we were. Well, yes, it's a lot of fun. And whenever I see one of my old athletes or something like that, I'm in a grocery store or whatever, and they got their kids with them, they're like, let me tell you about this time, and so I have to tell something about what they did, or they say something about what I did. So,
And how often are those stories about, winning the race or is it?
So, you know what? I'm glad you asked that, because it's always a joyful moment or a lesson learned. Or a lesson learned. to see an athlete who's now 40 years old, and I tell my young man, my son, the same thing you told us, right? And I'm like, wow, and so, yeah, it's just to know that you've put that thumbprint, into someone's life, it really makes you feel good. So it's beyond coaching. Yeah, it's a life experience, a life exchange.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So while we're here in the space of coaching and athletic abilities and whatnot, what's the correlation between athletes, athleticism, and the mental health piece?
Oh, wow, that's a really $64,000 question.
Been anxious to ask you this because there's a lot of talk now in the public forums about athletes coming out discussing their mental health, and I know Simone Biles. We all know that story about she took a year off to take care of herself. We've got other athletes who are doing the same thing. What are your thoughts of all of these correlations between, like I said, athletes, athleticism, and mental health?
Well, it's important. It's very important, and it's real. Many people see we've been trained with the Superman perspective. Every great athlete you think about, Wayne Gretzky, whether it was Oscar Robertson, those the heroes back in my day. These like, God, those guys can't miss a shot, or what Wayne Gretzky was doing on the ice was just, you never phantom a human being could do those type of things. Their gift had manifested. Right? But we forget they put their pants on one leg at a time, right? And there's some things that they're good at in that space. And there's some other things that they're not good at in a different space. It is so important because when they accept the fact that all these eyes are on them at one time, everywhere they go, you can't walk down the street, you lose so much to get that fame, it bothers the psyche. And now the athlete, my experience when dealing with athletes is they want to know who they are beyond their achievements. Who is Michael Jordan beyond his sneakers? Because he has a famous quote that goes something like this: "You've seen all the shots I made." And he throws out a number, maybe 6,000, but you don't know about the 20,000 that I missed. Right? Right. So these are questions. Because human beings, whether you're athlete or musician or educator, we always question in ourselves, what's my authentic self today? Who am I in this space, in that space? Am I enough, right? And so this is why when you see a downturn in that athlete, or you get a story on that athlete, you're disappointed because vicariously we're connected, right? But it is very, very real. The athleticism is the gift. Right? Because I can train athletes and some of them just have it. They just have it. And others work hard at it to get it, and they do achieve it. But the mental health piece is the piece that we don't talk about. And different cultures approach it different ways. Being a person of color, Black person, you didn't have mental health problems.
Okay.
Yeah. Boy, ain't nothing wrong with you.
And don't talk about my business when you out in the street.
Come on. And these things are very detrimental. All right. So an athlete who wakes up in his home and his parents are not getting along and they have some issues. And this is a true story that happened to me maybe 10, 15 years ago when I can remember coaching, and one of my athletes was having a horrible day, but no one knew until after we got back to the school. He had just found out his parents were divorcing. And he was not in that space. If I would have known that, I would have never addressed him.
Yeah.
Right. But he kept that into himself. He kept it to himself. And it was a rough 3 months before he came out of that blue state. A rough 3 months emotionally. And trying to get young coaches to understand that mental health piece. Because we're trained in the society, suck it up. Be a man. Right? Things like that. And that's detrimental. And I have a list of these things that are told to us as young people in different spaces that are detrimental. But sometimes it's the only thing a parent knows how to say because that's what they were told. Right. Yeah.
Any tips or tricks on tearing down stigma, whether it be in the sports realm or in the classroom or in life in general?
Oh yeah, face it head on. You know, I tell young people all the time, and particularly when I'm speaking at correctional centers and prisons and things like that, because I do volunteer my services in those places because we can't forget about people. But I constantly try to remind them, I want you to act towards your name, move towards the direction of your name, not your fame. Because like even a bully gets a level of fame that they shouldn't get. Right. And so even when we dismantle that with my young third and fourth graders, we do a chant. You're just a B, U, LLY. You're just a B, U, LLY. Who you talking to? B, you know? And
Now we'll be singing that for the rest of the day.
and bully stands for because you lost love yourself. So let's talk about that. You know, are you angry at me? You want to hurt me? Or did you lose something yourself? And you already hear some of those conversations.
I bet they're intense, even with third and fourth graders.
Yeah, they have stuff to talk about.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. They were punished because the puppy didn't get fed. Woo. They're angry. The first person they meet in the morning is the bus driver or another child standing next to them to catch the bus, and it's on like popcorn, right? What is the antecedent of that? Where did that start from? Right? No one wakes up really angry. Well, sometimes I do. Oh, it's 6 o'clock already, you know. But, you know, but just to think that you're going into the world and you're passing that energy on, it's scary. And it is an energy, right? So I try to stay positive so I can take your negative energy and we get this synergy going now. You can't help but be on fire because I'm on fire, right? Right? And so it's challenging. But we got to keep the positivity going through all of that.
Do you think positivity is sort of the cure to stigma?
It can be at times. Some stigmas, especially those that are race-based, those stereotypes. Oh my God. If your grandfather told you and your father reinforced it, I mean, you really didn't have a choice.
But to believe that.
Because who doesn't want to believe their papa? Who really doesn't want to believe their papa? Right. And so I do a lot in the space of racism. And we strip that thing all the way down. And so you're acting out what you've learned. And then, you know, there's a lot of barriers there, but we're making progress. And but it's a learned activity. It's a learned activity. So the stigmas are huge. I used to use some stigmas to my advantage. I mean, I have a slow guy on the relay. I have him really running down, sweating, looking like he's the man. I just hope we have the lead by the time he gets the stick, right? But the stigma was, you know, oh, he's a muscular black guy. He can really run. He was slow as dirt. But you didn't feel that, right? But yeah. So stigma, there's stigma. Some stigmas are good, right? But most of them are very negative, rooted in superiority to beliefs versus inferiority. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Lisa and I often talk about, you know, our communities might be a little different, but in the end, like a lot of those stigmas are the same. I mean, I certainly had you're a man, and I came from a not wealthy family, so a lot of the, you know, the stuff, you just get through it and don't talk to your family about that. I had a wonderful, loving family and certainly had people I could talk to.
Yeah, clear that up so you don't get the... Yeah.
So, not you, Grandma. But so I think a lot of those stigmas that families or people deal with are very similar to even different communities. It's just those little differences around them that we're more alike than people realize.
Absolutely. But the root of all of that is fear. Because we don't communicate. I was dealing with the high schoolers the other day. You know, they always bring them to me like, hey, they're arguing and they're cussing each other out, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, if they could just communicate. I said, well, that's an interesting term. Because we're not communicating. We're communicating. Because they use threats. And you listen to this, it's a threat in every other word. And it's hate-based. You know, I hate you because of this. I hate you because of that. Whatever. So I said, so I just made up this word, communicate. Let's give it a definition. And they actually participate. I'm like, wow, that's sort of deep what you said, right? And I know that these are conscious terms that they're saying coming from an unconscious place, right? You realize they've been the victim of that. What child wants to be woke up with, if you don't get your whoop, 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 whoop out the bed right now, I'm going to kick you, whoop, whoop, right in your, right? I promise I'm going to kill you if I have to take you to school. You better not miss that bus. That's the energy you wake up with, even before you had your cornflakes. Yeah. Give me a break. You set that tone as a parent, right? As a friend, just working with some of the football teams that I work with, I sort of pressure them to ask your teammate, how is he doing today? How you doing today? Before you just inquire. We don't inquire for the positivity, because everybody has to be hardcore, right? And you don't have to be. Use your soft spot. Use your soft spot. It's okay.
One thing I used to be a teacher, and one thing I learned from our principal.
Used to be? You're still a teacher. Once a teacher, always a teacher. Yes.
I mean, there was this pretty hard-nosed senior teacher that, the kids would come in first thing in the morning, and it was that, like, we gathered in the cafeteria. Why are you up walking around? What, you can't go to the bathroom without asking me. Just on these kids at 7:30 a.m. And that principal she started coming down when all the kids were coming in, and just, how's your morning going? And just a little hug and things like that. And seeing that as a 22-year-old teacher, I'm like, that is way more effective than what the other teachers doing, just because they probably had a rough morning. They probably got themselves ready for school. And then to have a teacher immediately on them. So I think any teacher, coach, mentor, anything.
It's funny that you said that, because I did a PD training, had like 80 people in my training. And and I think this guy, when he asked the question, he was taking a shot at someone in the room. We're like, so what happens when you get to school and the kids get here at 7:30 and you start getting calls at 7:33. This kid needs to go. That kid needs to get out of my room. Well, just negativity out of that. What is the cause of that? I said, well, Dr. Simeon Biscu says this. That person may have gotten a bad cup of coffee or frustrated with whoever they slept with. So I said, oh, okay. In the place, they just laughed. They just fell out. But I saw people scratching their heads like there might be some truth to that, right? Yeah. You bring that energy with you.
Oftentimes the question that I coach about is not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you.
Oh, yeah.
To make people reflect upon, maybe I shouldn't be so mad at Coach, because what else has he experienced before he got to me? And then maybe in having that discussion, maybe he can come to terms with understanding what happened to me before I got to you. So I think that can also be a powerful tool if we can learn to change the tone and stop asking, what happened, what's wrong with you, versus what happened to you.
Absolutely. And I often like to piggyback with having my audience or my students recite, trauma happens to you and through you, and it leaves residue. Let's clean up the residue, right? And we get to talking about that, because some of the things, I think I was maybe in my 40s when I had my first panic or anxiety attack. And I'm leaving a speaking engagement somewhere in Tennessee, trying to get to the airport and things like that. And I had to take this bridge. I've been driving before I was supposed to be driving. I was driving at 14, right? So, and I couldn't take the bridge. You could not convince me that this car wasn't trying to go over into the Mississippi. I'm like, I'm in a flying car. It was so real to me.
That's totally valid, because bridges, they shouldn't exist. They freak me out.
They freak you out. And I'm like, wow. So I pulled over and called 911, and they asked me what's going on. I said, I don't know what's going on. And I end up in the hospital for a couple of days, evaluated. And when the doctor at the end of the day said I had a panic attack, I was insulted. I coach in front of thousands of people, you know.
Yeah, what do you mean I had a panic attack? You better look at that paperwork again.
Trying to tell you, I'm like, no. But yeah, but I had suppressed the accident that I was in when I was 6 years old, right? Because the person was driving was a reputable person in our community, but had been drinking, and we were not to talk about it. You know, and I'm like, wow. And so that fear
It went somewhere.
and it was dormant. And I didn't discover all this until, as a counselor, I wouldn't get counseling, right? Because this was becoming a serious issue for me. Just getting, there would have been a time I wouldn't have driven to Lima, because somewhere in Sydney, there's this little bridge like you go over, it's 75, but you get this height, right? And I'm like, I would have been able to take that. I would have got the exit or whatever and found the back road, you know, but yeah, so it's real. And we're not recognizing that we have children in school who having internal panic attacks, who are afraid of success. Because to get to success, you go through failure. And they have been reprimanded for failure before. So I'm trying to get adults, educators to recognize that you can't the child won't be successful till they experience that failure. But when they experience that failure, let's not make it the end of the world.
Biggest deal ever because they messed up. Yeah.
And a lot of my young educators,
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try.
why would you?
Absolutely.
Teachers are no different than parents. They live vicariously as well through their students. So what teacher wants to find out that 82% of their children in their class is failing? Right? You know, so now we got to look at the technique of the teachers. It becomes very personal. So one of the things that a teacher might do to retaliate without appearing to be retaliating is get the kid put out in the classroom or make a mountain out of a molehill, and he or she is suspended for a day or two or whatever, because they're taking that personally that the kid is now succeeding. But to get to success, you have to go through the land of failure, right? And that's where we get stuck. We take that personally. Teachers take that personally. Parents and human beings take it personally.
Don't you also think, though, it's got a lot to do with timing, because our teachers have such little time to make so many things proficient? What do you think about the timelines?
We should consider other approaches. Everything is on a timeline, and it's not good. It's not good.
That's the first thing that puts me off of my game, is if I can think that, I got to get this done in X amount of time, and I know there's a clock ticking, I'm instantly off my game.
Absolutely. That's a lot of pressure. And not everyone responds to pressure in the same.
We are going to also do something a little bit different in our time together today. As many of our viewers can see, there is a jar here, and there are printed cards in that jar. There are random questions and thoughts on that card. And so we would love for you, as our first guest using the jar, to take a card and maybe let's do a little bit of processing or Q&A about the card. Are you up for that?
I don't know, but we're going to try. Nothing beats a try, right?
Let's go right ahead.
Okay, I'll pull, you read.
Fair.
That fair enough?
That's fair.
Okay. And these trick questions?
There's no trick cards in it, I promise.
I was just trying to get my brain adjusted and ready.
Okay. All right. So this is a pretty blue printed card, and I think that's appropriate since you're talking about being blue earlier.
Okay.
This card says, does this problem need to be solved by you? Does this problem need to be solved by you? And I think that's applicable because, we're talking about a lot of problems.
That's a great question. It's funny because I've been dealing with that, and I believe it's a collaborative. It's a collaborative. If I created the problem myself, I still need help to correct it.
Okay.
So it's a collaborative. Would be my answer.
I can chime in on that in a little bit. With owning a business and having family, there's always problems that arise in all facets of life. So I've really been working on identifying, is that a problem that I need to A, get involved with at all, and B, is that my responsibility to solve that? Or like you're saying, just collaborate and provide support as I can. And then other times to delegate that, because that is not my expertise or my area of knowledge. So I'm not really going to help that. So, but it is really difficult to decide, do I need to solve that problem? And then you look inward and think about, is that a problem? If I'm trying to change something about myself, is that a problem? Or is that just who I am? Do I need to work on that? Or is it just part of my personality? So I think that question just opens up a lot more questions.
Absolutely.
But it is hard to know when that's a problem that you should be worrying about. Yeah.
So I love that we have one card with one question and we've got 3 different perspectives. I appreciate that, because my thought when seeing this card is my clinical space. And I oftentimes can say that as somebody's provider, when they're sharing what a problem is with me, it is not my problem to solve, but it's my space to help them process, to maybe help discover where it originated from, and then help to share resources and maybe point them in the right direction. But that's my take as a clinician. From a personal space, especially with my children, I oftentimes am saying to them, mom can offer you insight, but as an emerging adult or as an adult, this is yours to deal with.
Right.
Yeah, I can model what mom and dad may have done or what we, wanted to do. But it's a problem that you have to solve, because now that you're adulting, now that life is lifing for us, now that life is lifing for you, this is on you. So it's interesting that we had one card and three different perspectives. Yeah. So see, was that's nice. Okay. Right. I dig it. You want to go again?
We'll shoot for another one.
We're on it now.
Good.
All right. Aww. Okay, this is a beautiful stone-colored card for our audience. You cannot see this. This simply says, "What is your favorite quote?" Oh, and we're going this way this time.
Okay.
Oh man, you're throwing it to me. Okay. It's song lyric. Is that acceptable?
Absolutely.
I have it on a poster in my wall in my office. It's,
Okay.
every day I wake, I tell myself a little harmless lie. The whole wide world is mine.
Wow.
So I see that and I think I can get pretty down sometimes, but when you think about it, like every day's a new one, and maybe it'll go how I want it to go, and I'm going to try to do it my way. And yeah, this is my day. And things will come up and get in the way, but
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best. That's still my day. Yeah, Coachy.
I have a zillion,
I know you do.
but I'm gonna use one that I've written since I write quotes, and it comes to me more often when I'm driving. Life be lifing. I was at that corner trying to make this left, and the car didn't stop. Right, and I knew I had to right away. Life be lifing. So keeps me from road rage, because I don't think that was that person's intention to do something harmful. So life be lifing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share. I have many also, but one that's really been resonating with me here recently actually is a biblical scripture. It comes from Romans 12:2, and it actually speaks about being renewed by the transformation of my mind. And I'm thankful for that, because it reminds me that I can process through things and that I'm different once I've been educated about something, the faith that I have in the Lord to provide for me all the things that I need, and that I am capable. So I just kind of try to resonate on that, especially in doing new things. I mean, even in doing this podcast, this is new for us. And we have to constantly be transformed. We have to constantly be positive that we can do certain things. And so in this stage and age of my life, I've been resonating to that scripture. So again, Nice. So we'll let our audience chime in about whether or not or how we continue to do this. We did toss around the idea to throw in some dingers and zingers, but I don't know. We'll figure that out later.
Yeah, it could be.
But thank you for participating. We didn't even get to talk about Coach's books. So he's been an author for I don't know how long. If you want to take the opportunity to speak about some of the books that you've authored.
Well, there are situational books and circumstances, and I've written some for schools, motivating teachers. I've written some that deal with the area of gang violence and addiction, because I started off as an addiction counselor, things like that. So just a variety of things, whatever mood I'm in space. I start things and finish them years later. So I finish in a week. So yeah. So I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Can you give us just a tidbit of insight about your work as an addictions counselor?
Oh, wow. It was very challenging. And I was actually a counselor before I was an adult. Allow me to explain.
Please.
The youngest of 13 children, right? And my twin and I were the Usi babies. So when we came along, my siblings are already teenagers. And so as we grew, they started having children themselves. And so the house was always crowded. Because I didn't know my nieces and nephews were nieces and nephews. I thought they were my siblings as well.
There's some just kids in the house.
Yeah, right. And everybody called mom and daddy mom and day. No one said grandmother, grandfather, stuff like that. And so I used to be embarrassed when I go to school and they'd say, how many siblings do you have? First of all, what is a sibling? Over 6 years old, yes. We had their brothers and sisters, and you thought this huge number. And I'm like, what's the big deal? But
Doesn't everybody have?
right. But in that, I said all that to say that being the son of a minister and living with the secrets that my father was addicted to alcohol. Well, he used alcohol to numb many of the things that he went through, being from the East South, dealing with the segregation and the racism at that point in time. I just saw a lot of things, and some of my siblings absolutely was addicted to different drugs at the time. And I said, man, this is devastating, because I was embarrassed with some of the issues that caused, whether someone was going to jail as a result of being caught or robbing someone, all these things came along. And so I became a counselor when they were around 26, 27 years old. Went through the trainings and all those type of things. And it was a life-changing for myself as well, because I understood at that point people were trying to deal with their pain, internal pain, physical pain, and mental pain. They're trying to numb it. No one wants to really be addicted. Wake up and say, the day is a good day to be dependent on a drug.
Right.
Just wake up just to make it through the day. Things like that. And quickly, I had an older brother who I caught one time in the house taking a shot of heroin. And I promise you, I see it as clear right now as if seeing your face. And he looked up at me and said, if I die from this shot, and if I ever found out that you did drugs, I'll come back as a ghost and hunt you. And I believed him. Right? And I was 16 years old. I had no business being on myself at that point. I was cutting school. Right? So, but all that happened for a reason. And I've been committed to that ever since. So my first book I wrote on what's about alcohol was the black community at that time was being inundated with big billboards about malt liquor. And so I wrote a book entitled A Message in a Bottle, The 40-Ounce Scandal. And life has not been the same since. So it's taken me all over the world. So, yeah.
Wow. What would you say to someone that, wants to make that first step to getting some help with their addiction?
Wow. You can get high, but you can't get by. You can get high, but you won't get by. If getting high is so good, why do you feel so low? So when you come to this lowest point, which we call rock bottom, when you come to this lowest point, all you can do is look up. And someone is going to be then looking down at you, wanting to help you. Don't be afraid of the help. Don't be afraid of the help.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
That's awesome.
Take time to talk about 988.
Yeah. So if you're looking for some help with addiction or mental health services in the local area, you can call 988 to get a list of services. If you need help right away, you can call the Hope line, 1-800-567-HOPE. As always, if it's an emergency, call 911. If you're looking for other services for a loved one or family member, all that's at wecarepeople.org. Tons of help there and resources for you. If someone wanted to get a hold of you to learn more or find your books, or
I'm an old-fashioned guy. You can reach me at A as in Apple, Coach Powell, that's 2 L's, at AOL.com. AOL because it still works. Right? And I will answer you. So,
Yeah, thank you for that.
really enjoy learning more about you, and I wish I could remember everything that we talked about. I mean, listen, so many great things to steal from you, like good little sayings.
oh, thank you for the invite. This space is so welcomely and beautiful.
And kind. Yeah.